There is some backstage concern in WWE about the Bloodline. Ric Flair is considering a lawsuit against that restaurant, and Randy Orton has addressed his WWE future. Stay tuned, it's time for the news. WrestleVotes making waves yesterday with an interesting tweet. They say, interesting tidbit here. Sources suggest that Solo Sikoa's recent aggressive streak is part of a strategy to establish him as the main force within this phase of the Bloodline. That's fairly obvious stuff. We're seeing him being the leader. Paul Heyman, maybe not so convinced, nor am I. Ahead of Jacob Fatu's debut, they continue. However, some trepidation remains within creative over fear that Fatu's presence could outshine Solo at this stage. So they're a little bit worried, it seems, that the current plan of Solo being the guy may be a little bit ruined when people realise that Jacob Fatu is better in every single way than Solo Sikoa, which he is.
Oh, that's what I was going to say as well. I think that would 100% happen.
Yeah, it will.
You watch Jacob in the ring and he is tremendous in his athleticism, and that's not to dismiss Solo in the slightest, but like Jacob really commands himself in such a way, and kind of like the fact that he can do standing moonsaults and then power moves and this, that and the other, it feels like he's a more, at least well-rounded wrestler perhaps than what Solo is at the moment.
That's the thing, right? It's not just about in-ring.
Yeah.
Like, you watch Jacob's promos. His promos are really fantastic. He just has a presence and a star power about him that I think, and it's just one man's opinion, Solo doesn't necessarily have as much.
And I mean, like, don't get us wrong as well, because I think Jacob's been doing it for a little bit longer at least as well. So he's had time to hone this craft a little bit longer than what Solo has. And Solo's like, come on, leaps and bounds from NXT to where he is now for sure, but I think the way he's just been booked at the moment on the main roster doesn't make him feel, and obviously we're getting there, as it says, you know, the WWE are trying to establish that and build that with Solo, but I think just at the moment it's not quite there yet. So I think if you did bring in Jacob, then there absolutely would be the fear of, people see him as more of the leader and the bigger deal.
You know what? It's a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks, first of all, the Solo thing, him taking over the leadership, he's never going to look as good as Roman, and that's sort of the plan as well.
That's a hard thing as well, isn't it? That's a hard thing to try and...
Maybe that's sort of the plan, that he's put himself in as the leader and he doesn't quite feel like a leader. However, when you've got somebody like Jacob Fatu in there, it's like... Just let it happen, right? So I think WWE has been held back in the past because what they wanted to happen hasn't happened. Somebody else has gotten over more than somebody else, right? So the plan is a bit of a mess, and they just pushed forward. They just pushed forward with it. This is our guy. This is who we're pushing. This was the plan all along. When really, if something happens organically, they should jump on that. If Jacob Fatu comes up to the main roster, outshines Solo, do a little storyline, let Jacob Fatu be the leader.
I think
just go with that, right?
I think they would do. There's more of a chance of that happening now with this current era, at least anyway, and the people that are in charge. I feel like that is definitely more likely to happen if that did happen. But yes, Jacob Fatu is very good.
He's very, very good. Sorry, Solo. To me, it just feels like, and again, maybe this is the storyline that they're playing out. We can't quite tell yet. Solo feels like he's cosplaying. It doesn't work for me.
There's that, and we've just come off the back of like an insanely long Roman Reigns reign as well.
Oh, it's a horrible position,
it's a hard thing to try. Like,
imagine.
So again, like nothing against Solo Sikoa at all. It's definitely it's big boots to try and fill, at least anyway.
Moving on, the chairman of Saudi Arabia's General Entertainment Authority, Turki Al Sheikh, announcing that an enhancement to WWE's existing deal with the nation will be revealed later this month. Obviously, they signed a 10-year deal a fair few years ago now. The Saudi Arabia premium live events have been happening for a while, but Al Sheikh told ESPN that Saudi Arabia is looking to bring the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania to the country as part of this enhancement. Obviously, neither the Royal Rumble or WrestleMania have ever taken place outside of the US or Canada so far. They did have the greatest Royal Rumble, which was so great. Is that not enough?
It was so great. You could do it again. Yeah, twice. Have Braun Strowman come back with the title as well.
Exactly. We've not seen that green belt in ages.
Yeah, I know. I think with everything that's going on with sort of the mayor of London saying that he'd love to bring a WrestleMania to the UK and Triple H replying like, let's talk. I think this is bound to happen with other countries as well, to be like, well, let us talk as well. Let's get in those negotiations too.
Basically, it comes down to who's going to pay the most money.
Exactly.
And I would assume that maybe Saudi Arabia might pay more than London or elsewhere. It looks as though we are going to get these big, some of the big four happening elsewhere. Like that's almost a given at this point. But if they're going to announce that that's what they want, that's, WWE will have agreed to that. That's what they'll get, and it'll be crazy amounts of money changing hands. So expect to see either WrestleMania or the Royal Rumble take place from Saudi Arabia. We move over to a bonkers story that broke this week. Ric Flair got into a bit of bother at a restaurant. You might have seen the video by now. Andrew, talk us through it.
So, So Ric Flair, right, is considering to file a lawsuit after he was asked to leave a restaurant. Flair, who was at the Paisano's Stone-fired pizza restaurant, was asked to leave the establishment recently, with Flair noting that it was kicked out of the restaurant after taking issue with how long the kitchen manager spent in the bathroom.
Apparently he was texting. He was texting on his phone or something. Flair wasn't happy because he wasn't receiving the service that he thought he should receive. And then he tweeted out saying, I spent $1,500 at the restaurant to be disrespected more than I ever have in my entire life. After taking 20 pictures with customers and staff, I was asked to leave because of an issue I had with the kitchen manager taking too long in the bathroom. I would highly recommend that anyone who wants to enjoy a relaxing time in Gainesville at a nice restaurant to never visit this place. Woo! Get that in there, Flair tweeted. So they released the video, and I think it's fair to say, again, this is one man's opinion, please don't sue us, Rick, that Flair was inebriated, acting like a proper dickhead. Yeah. He was just a wanker. He said originally as well that he hadn't sworn at anybody, but the video showed him calling that manager Nicholas Dickhead, which is very, very clever. He offered to pay the waitress $1,000 as a tip if she would tell the manager to kiss my ass, throwing the cash around, basically making people feel uncomfortable. And the video itself was pretty damning. You've probably seen it by now. Ric Flair was being a Karen and a drunk Karen at that. Anyway, he's been chatting away with the Gainesville Sun and said, the video that's now been leaked by somebody else speaks for itself. It sure does, Rick. He continues saying that he's considering filing a lawsuit against the restaurant and continued, I have the money to buy the restaurant, he said. It'll be called Ric Flair's Italian Bistro.
Sounds rubbish. I think, do you know what? Kudos to the staff there, because they handled it, I feel like, as best they absolutely could. They were really calm with him and everything. They were just asking him to leave. He wasn't leaving. My favourite part of the video is when that random guy at the bar says, you want to step outside instead with me?
Flair's like, what? Sorry, what? I can't hear anymore.
Sorry, what did he say? Sorry, what? Just a dickhead. Just a dickhead.
He was a wanker. He was a total. We've all been drunk. Before, right? I don't think I've ever behaved like that when I'm drunk. But if you do behave like a dickhead, you wake up the following morning and think, oh man, I've got to lay off the alcohol. I was a proper tool last night. You don't double down. No. And you don't go, I'm going to sue this small business.
I'm going to sue them and I'm going to buy them.
Yeah, I'm going to buy them, and I'll call it Ric Flair's attack. Like people are on his side.
Yeah.
He's 75 years old, right? Just grow up. Honestly, I know it's his gimmick. I get it. I know that, high flying, wheeling, dealing, all that stuff. Stick a pony in me.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
You flying. That's not anyway, it's Ric Flair's whole thing, but he's just being nasty to people just trying to do their jobs.
Exactly.
And then to double down on it. Screw you, Rick.
Yep.
The nephew of the Dynamite Kid set to make his AEW debut. Tommy Billington, billed as Dynamite Tommy Billington. He is the nephew of the late junior heavyweight British Bulldog star, the Dynamite Kid. He's going to be debuting Saturday, May the 11th on Collision. It's taking place in Vancouver, and he's going to be against Dax Harwood in singles competition. I've been lucky enough to see him wrestle, actually.
Really?
He was.
I was going to say that I'm not actually familiar with Tommy Billington's work.
Man, he looks so much like his uncle.
Well, I saw the graphic and I was like, has someone just made that as some kind of like, this would be a cool dream match, because he looks so much like Dynamite Kid. It's insane.
Crazy, isn't it? So he was over for Defiant. I don't think he did WCPW when the rebrand happened for Defiant, and he was young then, man. He was really, really young. He's still young now, but he was very, very young. And it's like, man, he is taken after his uncle. Yeah. He's very good. It's a really good opponent for him because he nails the technical stuff. Yeah. Him and Dax will have a great match. Oh,
absolutely, for sure, yeah.
It'll be an interesting match to see. We don't know if this is just going to be a one-off. One would assume that it might lead to bigger things. It might not. You never know with AEW. But stay tuned for that. It'll be a good one. It's worth watching that. And finally, Randy Orton addressing his WWE future. He's been chatting away with Adam's Apple. Discussing his continued presence on TV since he's returned and how long he plans to stay doing it with WWE.
Yeah, he said, if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have thought I was close to the end because I had spinal fusion surgery about a year and a half ago. That changed the game. I had been in pain throughout my entire 30s and was hurting. I was begging for time off when I was 35. I think Vince's quote to me was, Mother Nature gets us all. That's hard to hear when you're 35 and your back hurts and you're busting your ass for this company. There have been some changes. He goes on to say, now I think instead of pushing the guys and running their dicks into the ground until they fall apart, there is a great atmosphere of how can we make this guy last. The beauty of it is I'm not even there yet. I feel so great after my surgery. I'm a full-time guy. I don't want to do the old Undertaker or Shawn Michaels schedule, which they needed to do, understandably, but wrestling at WrestleMania, take the summer off, maybe you see them at SummerSlam. I want to be on the road every week. I want to make all the TVs. I want to be on all the PLEs.
How amazing is that? Like at his age, been doing it for so long.
Yep.
To say that, I don't want to do that part-time schedule. I want to be there. His love for wrestling has clearly been reinvigorated in recent years, and I think it's more than just the surgery that he's had. He seems to just be having an absolute whale of a time right now.
I think, and now especially, I guess, without maybe the restrictions and reigns of Vince McMahon just always being there, I think you can tell he's having so much more fun as well. He's having a whale of a time.
And we might get another 6 or so years of it, because he continues saying, at 44, I would love to be able to go until my 50s, maybe wrestle until I'm 50 and call it. That's 30 years, 30 with the same company on top. It feels like now is the perfect environment for me to thrive. If I do need to take a week off because I'm getting up there, I get it. There have been twice since I've been back where I was like, hey Hunter, can I take a week to recover so I can be 100% for the following week? Sure, as long as you communicate that to me, no problem. Having that in my back pocket is real peace of mind, knowing that if I need a week, they'll give it to me, which he's sort of indicating there that maybe that wasn't the case beforehand. And now if he fancies a week off because he's hurting,
that's it.
He trips.
With him saying before, like, Vince is just like, Mother Nature gets us all. You still got to go out there and do your thing. It's like, oh, Matt, well, yeah, you're just like basically limiting your talent there, aren't you? Because they'll get to a point where they just can't do it anymore anyway. Yeah. So give him a week off, let him recover for a bit, and then hopefully, recuperate, back good as new, good as can be, good as can be at least anyway, so they can keep doing it for longer. And in the long run, keep making you money as well.
Exactly. Don't run Randy's dick into the ground.
Please don't.
Don't do any of the dicks, in fact. Don't run them into the ground. That's very important. Thank you very, very much for watching. Take care of yourselves and have a good... Oh, no, it's Thursday, isn't it? I was going to say have a good weekend. Have a good Friday. And see ya.